All right, good afternoon, everyone. So, yeah, I just got done with a meeting and I figured I would record a video because hasn't been quite a long time, but the reason is mostly because I finished that property management book reading this book, and it was pretty good. I learned a lot from it, but there were some flaws. I would say give it a good 4.5 out of 5, 9 out of 10, maybe 4 out of 5, 8.5. I'm not sure. Because one thing that surprised me about this is, and I think this is actually false, but let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. It says here, to determine the appropriate basis for calculating depreciation when it comes to real estate, depreciating the property. Investors have traditionally used the property tax assessor's allocation between the value of the building and the land. So I also use the allocation of the property, of the value of the property versus the value of the land. You take that difference and, you use like a certain ratio. Calculation wise, I know what it is in my mind. I can't describe it 100%, but anyway, so I thought that was kind of interesting, and because I do that too. I do that allocation. But then here it says, but the Internal Revenue Service doesn't allow the assessor's allocation. That doesn't make any sense. It does not. It does accept an appraisal, which can be quite expensive unless you have a recent one available. But a more cost-effective method of the IRS accepts is the comparative market analysis, which brokers offer for a nominal charge or even for free. I call this bullshit, but the Internal Revenue Service doesn't allow the assessor's allocation. That's bullshit. Because if you go on their website, it'll say that that's a way that you can actually allocate your depreciation. So, and also my tax advisor from 6 years ago also said for me to do the same thing. And if you want to see that, it's right here. But that's just one thing. I just thought it was kind of interesting that he put that in there, because I don't think it's true. The other thing too is I got new glasses. I'm not gonna probably be wearing them all the time like I normally don't do with my other glasses, but I just figured I would show you. But yeah, I mean, that's about it. And then also I found out that the my W-4 wasn't filled out properly, or it wasn't didn't account for additional the laws that changed in 2020. So I have to pay $5,000 of taxes, and I didn't realize I was gonna, and 3,000 of that, 3,600 of that I didn't realize I was gonna owe, because because when I withdrew my 401k, I thought that maybe that was gonna cancel out with the standard deduction, which it did, but it pretty much barely did. So in addition to that, I owe whatever taxes that was supposed to be taken out of my paychecks that wasn't, because of the law, the the W-4 laws took effect. So it kind of sucks, but it is what it is. I can't really do anything about it. So I have $7,500, and I thought I was going to put that towards a new car, right? But it turns out that because of the $5,000 out, I'm going to have to wait another 2 to 3 months. So it's just the way things are. I mean, this year I could have technically taken out, deducted my, lied about the fact that it was a rental, and then deducted my, the expenses related to all my renovations, and then not owe anything. But I can also do that next year, which makes more sense, because sometime within this year I'm going to rent out the room, and I'll be basically getting rental income from that, and I'll be considered a landlord, so it's going to be deductible whatever I did. Whereas this year it's not deductible because I chose the standard deduction, and when it's a rental property, you can do the standard deduction in addition to the rental property up to one point, deducting the rental property from your regular active income, depending upon your situation, So yeah, that's interesting. But is there anything else I want to talk about? Probably not really. So just a bunch of work. But yeah, that book was pretty. Oh, God. I got most of the meat of it like through with the center of the book, like the middle of the book, and there were some tips that he gave that I didn't really think about. And there was a section in there on how to handle maintenance and tenant issues with that, and repairs and stuff like that. And it turns out I went about it the right way, but I never pulled the trigger on actually going to the eviction place and then trying to evict them the legal way. Well, I shouldn't say the legal way, the judicial way, because I didn't actually take all my paperwork and give it to an attorney or whatever and go to a judge and then get a court order to get them out of here, and then essentially collect or garnish their wages from that. After I saw that she left, when she abandoned the place, so that was actually, I was legally able to take it over, and with the thanks of my uncle, he helped me with that. And so basically, he basically told me, he said, it's a breach of contract, of course you can enter in, there's nothing issues with that. And I was lucky that she didn't leave any of her personal belongings behind. So I basically just started doing renovations in 2020, July of 2020, when she moved out. And I'm trying to remember. So during that time, like, I didn't think it was worth it to try to sue her, because she already caused a lot of trouble, and I was like, I already knew I screwed up from the beginning, because essentially I didn't screw up in terms of my eviction efforts, but I screwed up in terms of the setup of all this stuff, because I didn't account for the capital expenditure expense, and I didn't account for having some kind of emergency fund for it. Although I did have an emergency fund, but I didn't look at it that way. So the emergency fund was pretty much went down to zero as soon as I moved in, because I just had to cover all the expenses. I had whatever was left. I had like $10,000 when I rented it out, and more like $7,000. So I kind of had some like wiggle room, but I didn't look at it as I didn't actually see it as what do you call that? Emergency expenses. I just looked at that as, oh, you have some certain savings. So I was more, lifestyle creep happened in a way. So I was like, as soon as I rented it out, I just thought like, oh, I can take vacations, I could do crazy stuff, and then act like a rich person or whatever, which was actually really wrong. Because my mentality at the time was that I needed to rent it out right away and basically try to get back to my friends that were just trying to bang a bunch of women and stuff like that. And I was basically associated with all these people that were full of nonsense, that weren't actually trying to be successful themselves, trying to just... And I didn't intentionally try to get friends like that. It was just the way life worked. I mean, I didn't have a filter. So nowadays, I have a filter, and unfortunately, I don't discriminate necessarily, but I discriminate in terms of what they're all about. If I know that somebody's just not going to be like on your level, or trying to, they don't see the same struggles that you see. If they think they could chill all the time and not try to move forward with their life, I kind of think like, I just kind of filter them out and think like, they shouldn't be hanging out with this person or spending time with this person. Or I kind of like slowly identify what I see, and I let them talk, but I try not to connect with them, because I'm like, I know that we're not at the same level. Like, while you're talking and doing all this, I would be working on X, Y, and Z, or whatever the case might be. So it's a little interesting. I think a lot of, because like the common denominator is just way too easy to fall back on. It's just way too easy. And I mean, eventually, you're pretty much going to be predictable if that's what you do, and it's just not a good thing to do. A lot of people fall under that common denominators kind of thing. Whether it's for like something that's even better or for the worst. So like, for example, I saw both. So when I first started working, I saw it from the bad angle, like with my friends that I used to have, where they were like where they were just saying, hey, bro, let's go to the club every day after work or whatever. Or why are we not getting bitches and all this stuff? Like, because he was my roommate, this guy. And so it was like, there's a lot, pretty much everybody in that age range, like 20 to 28, would fall under those kind of behaviors and stuff. And I think at the time, I was just so open to just meeting everybody and being their friends and stuff like that, and just kind of not discriminate. I just looked at it as not discriminating. So I just thought, like, why not? But then now I learned, like, you have to put a filter on these things because they can waste your time and your resources and your self-esteem and stuff like that. Sometimes it's hard to catch, actually. For example, the other day, and I'm not saying my brother's becoming this way, falling in the common denominator. Maybe he is, but we were together and, like, maybe it's just his girlfriend or something. But he brought up the whole idea, like, oh well, she still thinks I'm just thinking about this. She still remembers that she beat you at the the plank contest, and that's all she thinks of you is, like, this guy that is so weak that he can't even beat me at a planking contest. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? Like, I'm gonna crush that cockroach like a motherfucker, like a mofo, just putting it in their words, But yeah, I mean, when those things slip out and you start to see that, it's like that whole thing of the common denominator trying to creep inside you, and you're like, oh, I got to get this shit out. You got to make sure you're not being weak. You're just trying to minimize the negativity because you're trying to pretty much filter out things that would influence you to give into the common denominator behaviors. So I think that was the problem. But anyway, sorry, I know I just keep going on and on. But what's the whole point of YouTube videos if you don't have anything to talk about, right? Well, it's great that I can. We have the internet now, so it makes it a lot easier to find people that you can filter out the nonsense about. So, for example, the Mark's Epic Weight Loss, his persona is more on the wavelength of mine, in the sense of cutting out the bullshit that people have, the common denominator. Because but okay, so there was that, right? So sometimes what I'm saying by common denominator is that there's the good and the bad, right? So the bad, I was talking mostly about the bad. So the bad part of the common denominator is things like that, where they're trying to bring you down for stupid things. They're trying to get you to cave into what their shitty behaviors are, like over drinking. I mean, that same person that made a comment about me being weak she implied it, but she didn't say it. Apparently she got a little bit big, and she got maybe she's overweight, I don't know, but she was skinny, but she also got a alcohol addiction, right? So, and maybe even a cocaine addiction apparently. So, like, there's the bad, there's the obvious bad, and then there's that roommate I had who was basically saying, hey, let's try to go to the strip club every day, or we got to do something different, man. You got to stop doing all this, man. You deserve to do all this other stuff. And it's like, dude, even if you did deserve it, it could ruin you, man. That's what I'm thinking, and it's true. I mean, if you cave into these things, it will fuck you over. It will screw you up. I mean, for sure. I mean, nobody's going to be strong enough to handle all that stuff. I mean, you can do things responsibly, So, yeah, I mean, so when it comes to the bad, there was quite a bit of bad, but it's like, even if you can filter yourself based off of people that would basically be working at the same level you are, you're still not immune to the bad of common denominators. You're just not immune to it. So you got to be careful. But anyways, I didn't have that filter. And even for the good part of society that gives into the good common denominator, a lot of the times that's mostly about the bad diets and things that are also unhealthy but produce poor results. So, for example, if you're a sugar addict and you promote, like, eating hot Cheetos and stuff, and then you don't promote healthiness, that's like a good, quote unquote, good common denominator, in that it's not good. Obviously, we know that's not good, but it's not intentionally trying to make you lead to a miserable state. So it's kind of interesting because you would think that some people are like that on the internet, or like you might think that Mark from Mark's Epic Weight Loss is like that, but I don't think so. I think he doesn't fall. I think he might recognize that he might have what do you call it, fallen for the common denominator, and now he's finally realizing to get out of it. So he's focusing on what to do to lose weight, and he's doing a really good job and stuff like that, and what's actually good. So I think what I'm saying is, like, you're not immune to the whole common denominator thing, and in order for you to do something like what I'm doing, it's like you got to strive to get out of that. I mean, you just have to. It's not for it's the faintest hearts, So, because by the very nature of it, if you want to do good in it, you can't think like the others. Like, you have to think like a business owner, and you have to just kind of be above it. And it sounds arrogant for me to say that, but I think you do. And you can't just like suddenly think that you can just fall back on on your old habits, or being part of the common denominator. But I don't think you can. No, you can't just suddenly do that, or else you're gonna face some miserable consequence. But anyways, I'm just giving my thoughts on that because I read all this and I'm thinking to myself, like, there's got to be a better way than the way I handle it, because that's essentially what I did. I was a business owner, like I thought like a business owner for less than a month, and I approached everything like that. But then there's this period where I thought, well, how come I can't just become like the give into the common denominator? After all, it's good, right? Like, as long as it's not bad, it's good. And that's only true if you're talking about giving into it. It's like, okay, it's only good because it's not bad, being in the common denominator, but you're still in the common denominator. So you should get out of that and do what's right. Quit alcohol. Stop thinking you could just chill and not try to spend that extra 3 hours on the weekend to organize, spend your documents and try to prepare for the future. Spend the extra 3 hours reading some other books because you want to improve on how you understand the world. Stop thinking that you can just deserve to take vacations whenever you want and stuff like that. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. It's like you got to be responsible and stop and to not cave in until you can't really even do anything. Like, you literally are mentally impaired or whatever. So I just thought I would give my thoughts on that. And it's weird because that's exactly what happened. I went back to the common denominator behaviors, and I was drinking every day, and it actually got worse. And that was starting in June of 2019, because I was promoting it, thinking that that's what you had to do as if you wanted to like go all out and being a business owner or whatever. But it's actually the opposite. And how you had to be, in a way, relative to where I was, you had to be more nerdy and geeky about things than what I thought. And I think that and you have to be more obsessed as well. I think at the time, like I said, yeah, I was giving in, and then I was drinking more and stuff like that. So if there would be any issues, I would kind of like try to like handle it in a hurried way. And I'm like, shit, I don't know what to do. And I would freak out over every little thing and stuff like that if something didn't go right. And if I wasn't getting my rent payments, I'd think like, oh, I can't do this, or else I won't be able to enjoy my life. I won't be able to enjoy it. But you can't think that way. If you're not getting payments, well, you got to do what you got to do. But you can't look at it as it's affecting your life. You got to separate that your personal stuff going on from the business stuff. And a lot of times you just have to stay within that business realm for, I don't know how long, but you got to commit to it as long as you have to, So you can't just suddenly say, I'm going to spend this weekend to eat all I want and binge drink or whatever, because something else is going to come up, or if you're not improving on your business acumen or whatever, then you're not going to basically know what to do next if there is another problem. And you won't be incentivized to improve your current situation, and you won't be incentivized to help people too. So it kind of goes back to that whole thing, trying to be a responsible homeowner and stuff like that. But yeah, there will be a time where times where I'll want to party and stuff, but definitely at the time that I was back then, I just assumed that you could relax way more than what you should have expected as a business owner. All right, thanks for watching. Hopefully I can discuss this book a little bit more. I'm gonna have to organize things and put some more documents together that they kind of provide templates for and stuff like that. So there's some other tips in that book that I found really helpful. Like, you can have house rules and you can have your lease agreement. And in general, I think I was mistaken when it came to the lease agreement. I kind of assumed that that you need the lease agreement and then everything else wasn't really legally binding, but that's not true. What you need to do is make sure that you pretty much use a template for the lease agreement, and then you have so-called house rules. So those house rules go over everything else that you might be liable for, but are important to highlight so that they know it's in writing that what they shouldn't be doing and to avoid. And then also you have to go through a pre-occupation meeting, and I didn't realize how important that was. But a lot of times these landlords, they don't, for some reason, even in California, they don't actually go through that process where there's a move in, move out sheet, and they actually fill it out while they're there, and they have them fill it out too. It should be a requirement that you put in some in the documents, or maybe you have your own disclosure saying you need to fill this out or else I can't process your application. And also, the other thing too about the applications is I was totally wrong about that. You should, in general, have a first come first serve basis, and you should even highlight that somewhere, like first come first serve. And even though you might be afraid that somebody's going to sue you, not only you're supposed to have courage, but it actually will weed out the people that would be trying to screw you over. Because when you say something like that, that lets them know that you're business-like and you're not going to, you're not to be screwed with. But the whole idea of that is that you can also, by doing that, you could try sort of prove that whatever you have, like if you rejected, and I don't know if this would ever happen, but I don't think anybody that's disabled would be trying to get trying to apply for my condo. I'm not sure, but I completely doubt it. I think it's just by the very nature of it, they'd go to a disability place or something. But if there was something like that, then I could, if something were to happen where it's like if I reject them, I can then notify them and say, hey, I'm sorry, we're rejecting your application, and we could say for XYZ reasons. But particularly if it's because someone else came by before and they were a qualified applicant, well, you can just simply say, hey, this person came first. I know I showed you the apartment, or you came by and you swung by and saw the apartment and you seem interested in it, but I'm going to have to take this person because they came first. So it just works out better that way. And I think I'm going to start doing that. The other thing too is I realized is that for discrimination, I might have accidentally implied that I was discriminating, because I was trying to say examples in my post, in my advertisement, and say anybody's welcome to come, but it seems to be be very inviting for those that are particularly have families, and I think that are students. I wasn't saying that it was for them particular. I was just saying that the amenities are on par with somebody that might be looking for that. I said, but everybody's welcome to come. That was part of my post. And in a way, what I didn't realize at the time is that what I was really trying to say was trying to outline particular interests in it, but I knew that I fell short of it because there was nothing really interesting about it. I didn't renovate it or anything. So now that I did renovate it, I can actually put in there, it's not necessarily amenities, but things that are of interest to people. Like I say, I've got glass tiles, or I can just put in whatever's there, and I can say it's a quiet environment. I don't have to say anything about who might be interested in it, just particular interests of it. So this is what I think everything's going to be completely different once I advertise it. But I found it interesting that book kind of highlighted these things and made me aware of it. But so I give it a good rating, and this time I shouldn't screw up. I'll be able to reference it whenever there is something that comes up that seems a little questionable in my process. So yeah, thanks for watching. This is a congratulatory. Also, I got the Washington PE license. I'm very happy about that. So thanks for watching, and yeah, have a good day.